blacksmith, a tailor, an apothecary. Dear Lord, do we need apothecaries? And you were schooled. Most peasants have not been schooled. There's no formal schooling or training for any peasant, right? It's all dependent on the family and on just what's around them. So if you're going to be taking up a new identity as a peasant, you really need to be careful. You need to say things in a dumb way, in a really foolish way. Okay. Oh, well then. I didn't expect to see you here. Why, it's been quite a time. Well, you've fallen from grace, have you? Oh, well, don't worry. I will take care of you and get you prepared for your new peasant life. Oh, yes, of course. I know that you are shunned by everybody with what you did. Don't worry. I don't need to know exactly what you did. I've heard enough from other people. So, if you want my help, you'll just have to ask for it. Oh, come now. It shouldn't be too difficult for you to ask for help. After all, you may have been a noble once, but you aren't anymore. Yes, that's right. That's how you do it. You just ask for help. It's really, really simple. Well, alright then. Since you were a noble, I'm sure these things are very difficult and very different for you. So, how about we start with the basics, which is I'm going to need to make you look ugly. Yes, of course. You had a noble's upbringing, you had school, you had attention, all of the things that us peasants never get. So one of the things that you're going to need to understand is that because you are fairly disliked now, you are not... you need a new name, really. You need a new name, you need a new identity, and I'm going to help you craft that, right? I'm very good at giving people boils, at really giving someone the persona of an ugly bastard, right? So that's what you're going to look like, an ugly bastard. So, how about we just get started? And the first thing that I really want to do is something a little bit underrated, right? I have here a few little wooden sticks, and I'm just going to scuff up your nails, right? Your nails look too prim and proper, and they need to look scuffed up. They need to look like you've been working hard, either in mines or in, you need to have been working, right? Either as a black or whatever it is. So, how about we get started here? If you give me your hands, and don't worry, we'll get to your feet in a second. So, yes, right there. Okay, perfect. So, okay, there we go. Yes, I'm just really digging in there. So, I'm not going to ask you what exactly you did for people to really turn against you, but what I will say is that you're going to have to make a choice now. Yes, there's really not many choices for peasants, right? But there are a few things that you can do, right? So, to give you a lay of the land, you've got people named serfs, right? A serf is a peasant that's tied to a land, right? That's me. That's like I'm a serf, right? I have land. I'm land tied. That's what most peasants are, right? They're farmers. So farmers is easy but boring work, I would say. Very, very difficult. But let me do it right here. Yes. Okay. Yes, it's very, very difficult. So, if I imagine you would have a hard time with that sort of thing. Okay, then over here, I'll just use. There we go. Okay, and now give me 1 foot, please. Okay, perfect. Yes, there we go. All right. Yes. So, do you think that you would want to be a serf? You'd have to find some land, but really it shouldn't be that difficult so long as you're able to establish a farm. I would say that you're well on your way. Yeah, you do. You don't look like the type to be a serf, really. You're a bit too pompous. Even with all my work that I'm going to do, it's really not going to be proper, right? It's not going to be proper. So I think, personally, here, there we go. Alright, perfect. Now the other foot, please. There we go. I think, personally, you should be a freeman. Right? The untethered to lords, the untethered. And they just go about. They're sort of like adventurers, the travellers. However, the issue with that is that you'd have to be very self-sufficient. You need to know how to hunt. You need to know how to evade the law sometimes. And I don't know if you're quite ready for that. No, you're not quite ready for that, are you? Yeah. Well, if you're not going to be a serf and you're not going to be a freeman, there are a few options, but let me just explain to you what it is to be a peasant, right? Because I don't think you really quite understand, you look a bit shocked, you're a bit shell-shocked, right? So, I would say that the life of a peasant, people like us, very mundane. Most of the time, most of us are farmers, so we end up doing our farm work for the majority of the day, then we attend church, which every good Christian should be attending church, and then and it's just a cycle. We do that over and over again. And if there's ever any time where we have a little bit of entertainment, we have to be very careful not to upset anybody, because if we upset anybody, we will be punished. Right? There is a very strict law system, which you helped instate. So really, this is your fault. So, okay, look at that. Your fingers are looking wonderfully dreadful, as if you have been working all your life. Wonderful. Okay. So, I'm just gonna look at you for a second, okay? Because I need to understand how your skin works here. So, if I look at you, yes, it looks like you're a newborn. It looks like you haven't been touched by the sun. It's truly, that will be fixed with time, but I will be able to do a bit. See, mostly your forehead and then down the bridge of your nose here needs to look like it's been a bit struck by the sun. You also need to have a bit more wrinkles, right? And a little bit of wrinkles, and your skin looks a bit flawless. And that's really not something that we appreciate here in the peasant society. So, because then how would we know that you're good, like a hard worker, right? So really, what we need to do is just be able to fix that, make it look like you've been working, and then give you a few boils, a few things to be able to, and scuff you up a little bit, right? Like a bit of dirt here and there, just to make you look good. And of course, you don't have to worry about it coming off. Us peasants, we only bathe twice in our lives. Once when we're born, and the other after we're dead. So you don't have to worry about it coming off, because you're never going to bathe anyway. Never again, at least. So, first thing that I'm going to do is I have a few tools here, and I need to give you some boils, right? The best way to do it, I believe, is let's see here. Yeah, right. This I think would be the best. So this right here is a little tool that I had the blacksmith make. I'm going to go in and really dig into each pore. Do you know what a pore is? Oh, it's too hard to explain, But really, I'm just going to dig in, and I'm going to really open it up a bit, right? To really make way for when I put in the dirt, right? So, if you stay still for me. Okay. Okay, perfect. Good job, yes. So, us peasants, we do live in villages, I'm sure you know, but what you might not know is that every single village is owned by some sort of lord. So there's always a higher up that you can talk to, but you shouldn't talk to them. They don't want to talk to you. They want to know of your presence, and of course they want your taxes. And the church wants their tithe, of course, but please do not talk to them. It's really not, it doesn't impress them. It doesn't look like you're taking initiative. I'm sure you read that in the Bible somewhere, but the Bible can sometimes be wrong. I know, blasphemy, but when it comes to our society, I think we're not perfect. We're all sinners. So I do think that you would work best within a village. I did say you should be a freeman, but thinking about it now, I don't think that's proper. No, not for you, really. You grew up, you had everything given to you on a silver spoon. I don't think that you would be... Okay, just a little bit more. Yeah, I don't think that it would be good for you. You need structure in your life. Yes. Who am I? I'm just a peasant who's been watching you on your journey, really. I mean, do you blame me for taking an interest in a noble who's fallen from grace? I mean, that it's something that doesn't happen much, and I'm glad that I survived being an infant to see such a wondrous thing, really. I mean, a lot of people have been saying that it's some form of justice almost, right? Like, oh, a noble is now going to be a peasant, they're going to be cast out, right? I'm helping you, I'm giving you a new identity. So, do you have any thoughts for a new name? Now, you cannot be called Dark Knight. I don't think that's proper. It needs to have a real name, right? Like, could be an Oliver, could be, a Janine, could be, I don't know many other names off the top of my head, but it needs to be a Hannah, perhaps, or a Mary. Mary's wonderful, right? Beatrice would be great. Ollie, or what else? Or perhaps maybe even like a Connor. Connor is good. Harry. Ron. So I think you should get into the crafts. One of the things that needs to happen is you need to prove your worth. And right now, as a ex-noble, you're pretty worthless. So no one in any village is going to want to keep you, right? But if you find yourself an apprenticeship, then perhaps that will be really, really good for you, because not only will you learn a skill, but you'll find lodging there as well, right? So you could, there's a few things, right? If you want, I'm done, by the way, but if you wanted to, you could be like a miller. Millers don't really do many apprenticeships. They mostly runs in the family. And to be honest, a lot of millers, they have a really bad, really, really poor reputation, right? A lot of the time, I personally think that they're scammers and they're thieves. You give them your flour, you give them your wheat, and they give you flour back, but who's to say how much flour they're giving you is the correct amount, really? And then they have their own organization. All millers from all around every village get together to discuss prices. My word, most people think that they're putting one on over, and if you're trying to lay low, then miller is not the way to go. But anyway, I think next is going to be a little bit of face wiping. So what this is about, right, is that this doesn't have anything on it yet. First, I'm not going to put anything on it, and I'm just going to wipe your face. And what this is going to do is it's really going to roughen up your skin, get a lot of redness, really make it tender. And then I'm going to mix up a little concoction. And when I mix up that concoction, I'm going to then dip this into it and re-rub your face. But it's going to be much dirtier, and it's going to really sink into the pores, right? So let's start with just wiping your face here. So just Okay, perfect. 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 Okay, so if you don't want to be a miller, you could be like a blacksmith. You could really go into the trades, really, like a blacksmith, a tailor, an apothecary. Dear Lord, do we need apothecaries? And you were schooled. Most peasants have not been schooled. There's no formal schooling or training for any peasant, right? It's all dependent on the family and on just what's around them. So, if you're going to be taking up a new identity as a peasant, you really need to be careful. You need to say things in a dumb way, in a really foolish way. Okay. So, perfect. Okay. So, do you have any inclination as to what you would want to do? You'd want to try to be an apothecary. I would think so. I think that would be good for you. So there's normally an apothecary, and that apothecary ends up taking on an apprentice, but not very often. That does. Okay, I do have to warn you, the apothecary does end up taking on some sick people. They do heal some of the injured. It's not really the primary job, but because they're knowledgeable on herbs, and I'm sure you know how to read, so it'll be easy for you to do that. You would then get to the point where you would be helping other people, and I know, simply judging from how it went as you being a noble, I would think that would be a problem for you. So I'm just throwing it out there. Perhaps it's not really perfect. You could be a monk. They accept all kinds as a monk, so long as you repent. And if you don't want to be a monk, then you could be something else. There are many things. You could be a tailor. There's many things. Okay, perfect. So now we're just going to take a bit of ingredients here from this pouch, and I'm going to put it into my little bowl. So let me just. There we go. And one more for good measure. Perfect. Then I'm just going to use this. As a farmer, you really need to learn all sorts because you tend to be a bit further away from villages, so you don't always have the opportunity to go to, say, an apothecary or a healer or anything of the sort, right? So I'm just mixing this in so that I can get nice and grounded. There we go. Perfect. I was thinking about it, and you could do something. If you end up being in a village, say you do become an apprentice, you could swear an oath to the Lord. If they believe this new identity that you take up, you could swear yourself to the Lord on a Bible, and then you could then be sort of have a new purpose in life. I think that would do you good, really, because you had a really hard time, I think, being directionless and a bit selfish and egotistical, I would say. This is, of course, all things that I have heard and not something that I have made the judgment myself. I would never say something like that to your face. No. I'd say that behind your back like a good Christian. Of course. So, regardless, I hope you are feeling good about what we're doing, because this is perfectly wonderful. So I'm just going to take this and dab it in here. There we go. Nice and wonderful. Nice and easy. And then we're just going to get in there and swipe it like that. Yeah, see, I'm adding some dark spots, some dark stains, really. And it's really going to make you look dirty and like you've worked. And most people, when they see someone who's done a lot of work, they will then feel as though they'll feel safer. Most peasants will feel safer around that person. There we go, yeah. Okay, and then I'm just going to dig into those pores that I opened up, and that's what's going to create the boils, right? But we need those. You need to look a bit unfortunate. Okay. Wonderful. Now, if you wanted to, as you know, there are taverns, but things get a bit raucous in taverns, right? People play dice, they bet, and they say things that they shouldn't. There's a lot of drinking in taverns, so you really want to take it with a grain of salt. You don't want to be at a tavern for long, because if something were to happen and you would to say get into a scuffle, then perhaps you would be found at fault and you would be thrown in jail. Yes, it's a very strict system. You'll be thrown in jail. It'll take you a lot of time, and then when you get out, you'll be weak and you'll be starved of food, and everyone will look at you differently, And I don't say this from experience. I say it because I've seen people really change. So try to avoid it if you can. If you go to a tavern, you could play a nice dice game, but there are a lot of weighted dice. A lot of people gamble. They're really addicted to gambling. It's a sin for a reason. So they're very, very addicted. Very addicted. And so what they'll do is if they lose, they end up getting really angry and accuse you of cheating, even if you haven't cheated yourself. Yes, this is all things that you should know, and you know how to read and write. So why aren't you writing this down? There we go. Perfect. Okay, this is looking good. It's looking very good. Okay, your face is looking really excellent in the worst way possible. Okay, and then I just want to mark right down the nose here, just right there, and then up onto your forehead. Yes, see, I call it the T-zone. No one understands why I call it the T-zone. It's because I believe someone told me what the letter T looks like, and for the life of me, all I could think about was either how that looked like a forehead and a nose. Bizarre, wouldn't you say? Okay, wonderful. Okay, now that we're done with your face, let's give you some tea to relax while I deal with your hair. Yes, your hair does look a bit unfortunate in the fact that it looks gorgeous. Okay, so just some tea for you. Perfect. Here you go, just some tea for you. Yeah, nice big gulps. Perfect. Wonderful. All right then, so we're just going to deal with the hair. I've got right here. We're going to deal with it. So I'm just going to cut it a bit unevenly, right? I'm just going to make it look like you've cut it yourself your entire life. And that way people won't question, why does it look so tidy? So let's just... Okay, perfect. Okay. Perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, see, I'm just cutting off strands left and right to try and get it all uneven. You could, if you wanted, you could make the journey to a different country. I hear that there's a lot of philosophers and things happening within the Roman and Greek empires. So, if you really wanted to go that way, I know that Arabs, they also have a lot of their own philosophy. I only know this because we have some merchants that come by and they end up talking about their own countries and where they came from. It's really surprising, really. So, if you really wanted it, you could do that as well. But I don't know if you have the funds to do that or really the wherewithal to do it, because look at you. You don't look like you would know how to get there. I mean, how would you even get off of England? Okay, just a bit more here. Just a bit, yeah, just right here. There, yes, there we go. Just really. And look, your hair's just flying everywhere. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, wonderful. So how are you feeling, my darling? Terrible? That's great. That's really wonderful to hear, because I tried my best. So give yourself a new name, give yourself a new identity, and if you want, you could say that you're my cousin. It will really get you started. I don't have many enemies, and the ones that do exist, well, let's just hope that they don't find you. Yeah, no, I have plenty of enemies. No, none too terrible, but you should be fine regardless, really. If you wanted to, you could help on my farm. But I don't. You know, it's going to be a really strict schedule from like 3 a.m. is when we'd start working. So I don't know if your noble sensibilities will be perfect for it. If you want my personal opinion, an apothecary sounds like a wonderful place. So just travel around, try and find an apothecary that's looking for an apprentice, and then learn from them, right? And then you can, help by treating the wounded and helping people fall asleep with like some sort of like lullaby potions, and you're able to do things like curing headaches and whatnot by mixing a bunch of herbs and whatnot. Nettle and sage and whatnot. Yes, of course. How am I so knowledgeable? Well, I simply just, there's a apothecary in the village that I live near, so I ended up talking to him for quite a while, and he's a pretty good chap, I must say. So, but if you're good, I'll pretend like I've never seen you before in my life, and you just let me know, right? You know where I live. You don't know where I live. Well, you'll find me. I'm pretty infamous. So you find me if you need anything, and good luck to you. I hope that your fall from grace is not so disorienting. All right then. Bye-bye.